I turned Threads into $100,000 in 8 months, and I got 7 takeaways that I learned. If I could rewind the hands of time, these are the 7 things that I would do to replicate that, and I'm going to give them to you guys and gals so you can do it faster than me. So I jumped on Instagram Threads on May 30th of last year. No plan, no strategy, no confidence. Just I answered people's questions. That's all I did for the first month. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions. I drove Uber at night and I answered a shit ton of questions in the daytime. And I didn't really sell anything, didn't really pitch anything. Just I was being of service, and what I call it the serve first mentality. And so the first tip, I got some notes in my phone so I don't forget. Number 1, and these aren't in any particular order. I share my unfiltered opinion. I don't have a filter over there. I think it was easier at first because nobody in real life followed me, so it's a little bit easier. I hate to admit that, but it's true. Nobody in real life followed me, or nobody even really was using Threads at that time. So I had an easier time sharing my unfiltered opinion, but I still do it today. I probably don't do it as much now because I have a lot bigger following, and that's a topic for another day. But I share my unfiltered opinion. I'm very honest about what it takes to build an online business. I often post, unfollow me if you think this is fast or easy. And I always say that this takes focus, discipline, consistency, patience, and a bulletproof mindset. I'm just very honest about it, Sure, at some post I'll sell the dream and share the money stuff, but I also I swing the pendulum back and I share it fucking takes work. It takes fucking work up here, and it's really, really hard. And people really appreciate that. So I share my unfiltered opinion, share what it takes. And I've had several people say they don't like me. I don't care. And I've had people tell me they don't like me, but they still buy all my stuff. That's a pretty good compliment, So sharing your unfiltered opinion, you stand out like a fart in church when you do that, because most people just kind of peacock what everybody else says. They just regurgitate what Alex Hormozy or Dan Coe or Justin Walsh say. They just repeat what they say. And then you got a bunch of Alex Hormozys out there. Not to say I don't get inspired by Alex, I absolutely do, and Justin and Dan and others, but I got my own way of thinking, and I share my own thoughts and perspectives and opinions. But I have a decade of experience, so I have a lot of opinions. I have a lot of things to share. And I think that's a big part of it, is I have a lot of perspectives because I've been doing this a long time. I didn't start last Tuesday like a lot of other people. Next one, I built, Threads Unleashed is known for this. This was my first tip in Threads Unleashed. 80% of my posts on Threads are comments on other people's posts. I comment far more than I share in my feed. I started at 80%. Now, I bet you 95% of the posts on Threads are comment replies to people. I'm not kidding. I do it over 100 times a day. Now, a lot of the comments aren't like detailed comments anymore. They used to be. When I first started, sometimes it would take me 20 minutes to leave one comment. 20 minutes for one comment. But that is how I grew an engaged community, as I spent time giving of value. I had a serve first mentality. So that was step number 2, is 80% of my posts when I started out were comments. Now it's like 95%. Next is I have fun. I think a lot of people forget this, and I think this is kind of across the board on any social media platform. But I think you could probably poll my audience and you could say, do you think Adam has fun? And I bet you 90% was like, yes, it looks like he has a blast. I don't take it too seriously. I have fun. I don't have this strict content calendar that I stick to. There are days where I post 20 times in a day, and there's days where I post once or twice. There's days where I make 3 offers, and I'll go 5 days without making a single offer. I have fun on that platform. I joke with myself. I talk about things outside of business. I share my personality. I share my weird quirks. I share a lot of things that are outside of business, but it's who I am as a person, because I'm building a personal brand. So a lot of the stuff I share, it's a lot of, and when I say personal stuff, I don't mean deep, dark secrets. It's just I talk about my love for Dateline, eggnog, pumpkin pie, Oreo blizzards from Dairy Queen, all the non-business stuff, and I've connected with so many people on the love of Oreo blizzards from Dairy Queen or Dateline or whatever. I had a conversation with a guy yesterday about the TV show Ozark. I have fun over there. I don't take it too seriously. I don't take it too seriously at all. And I think that comes out through my content. And a lot of people, because I follow people that I can tell they don't take social media too seriously. Like, they have fun. Like, they don't get too caught up in the bullshit and the drama. And there's a lot of bullshit and drama on social media. And I think people can see that. Because again, I can see it with others. And I'm like, man, I want to be like that person. Or, I wish I could handle it like that. And I've gotten to that level where I have fun. I don't give a shit. I don't take it too serious. So that's another one. That's a big one. And like I said, I think a lot of people struggle with that because they take it so serious. Next one is I have a serve first mentality and I give without expectation. In my comment section, 99.9% of the time you are not going to see me say, check the link in my bio, DM me for more. I might have said it a couple of times. I don't think so though. That's why I said 99%. I am not there to pitch my shit. Now, if somebody asks for a link, I'll gladly give it to them. But I am there to, if I'm answering somebody's question on their post, I'm not pitching my shit. I'm just being of service. I answered a question the other day, very thorough question, very thorough answer, I'm sorry. Last I checked, I had like 28 likes. And it brought me like 10 or 15 followers and I think a couple of sales. I can tell when like sales come in, when a comment does well. And again, I don't need to pitch this shit. If you do it right, you don't have to pitch when you're commenting is what I mean. They'll find the link in your bio or they'll start following you. And then I pitch on my feed, of course, but I don't pitch. And I don't pitch that much on my feed, by the way. I would say less than 5% of my posts are sales pitches. I use Threads to build my email list, and then that's where I pitch. And I make majority of my sales via my email list, not on Threads itself. Next one is I document my journey. I share the good and the bad, the happy and the sad. I've built a whole brand on this. People are like, this guy's the document your journey king. And I just share what I'm doing. I share what I'm learning. I make mistakes often. I don't get butthurt by it. I don't get like, oh no, I'm not gonna be an expert. I don't care. I don't have it all figured out. I'm figuring it out every fucking day. And so I share what I'm doing in business. I invested $5,000 on a funnel in March. What a fucking waste of money. It was a complete waste. I don't know what's worse, the $5,000 or the 3 months I waited for the dude to finish the funnel. And then it completely bombed. That sucks. I share that. That's not fun to share, but I talk about that. And I share that in hopes I can help somebody avoid that same mistake. And the lesson that I learned was do your due diligence, because I didn't do my due diligence. Not enough of it, at least. I thought I did, but I didn't. So I share that in hopes that somebody can avoid the mistake that I made. And then I look at it as, hey, if I can help one person avoid a mistake, then it's kind of a win. It's not really a mistake anymore. So I have no problem sharing my failures. And then of course I share the wins too. If I do a promotion and say, hey, I made $1,500, and I'll write like a long form thread on exactly what I did. Here's step 1, I did this, step 2, I did this, step 3, I did this, step 4, I did this. I'll share a couple of the mistakes I made and maybe share some of the things I wish I would have done. So I'm not just bragging saying, hey, look at me, I made all this money. I'm saying, hey, here's what I did. Here's what I didn't do that I should have. And here's what I wish I did, or here's what I did that I wish I didn't do. The mistakes made and the lessons learned. So I'm trying, it's not just like me bragging saying, look at me, look at me. It's like, hey, here's what I did, because that's a good hook. Anything like leading with money is a good hook. And then I share what I did and or the lessons I learned, mistakes I made. And then there's value in it, and then I don't feel like I'm like bragging because I'm sharing like a lesson with it. So that's kind of one of my ways I share wins is I try to wrap it in a lesson, because then I don't feel like I'm bragging. Next one is I inject my personality into my content. I guess this is kind of overlap a little bit. Like I said, I talk about food, I talk about TV shows, I talk about movies, I talk about rap lyrics. I talk about getting busted selling weed when I was 18 years old. I just share stories of weird things that I like, things that I'm interested in. I shared the other day my Mount Rushmore of TV shows, my 5 favorite TV shows of all time. And it started a conversation with a couple of people, and we went kind of back and forth with stuff like that. So I share my personality. I have probably about 15 different metaphors I use. Instead of make money online, I say stuff your piggy banks with more of the green stuff. So I take like common phrases and I reword them. And I said like instead of boost confidence, I say walk around with confidence like Conor McGregor. I don't use that one as much anymore, but like I say stuff like that, and people associate that phrase, because I say it over and over and over and over again, they associate that phrase with me. I have multiple people who quote me saying, I'm trying to stuff my piggy banks with more of the green stuff like Adam does, and they'll tag me. That quote has been re-quoted by so many other people, and again, it's just me saying make money online in a different way, in a unique way, in a fun way, in an interesting way, in my way, so so come up with a couple of phrases, like start with 2 or 3 and just repeat them over and over and over. Some will catch on, some won't. You discard the one. Not all of my phrases catch on. I say like a fart in the library. I say it's hard like folding a fitted bed sheet. I say it's hard like climbing Mount Everest barefoot in the dark with no flashlight. Sometimes I carry that one out quite a bit. But instead of saying hard, I say it's this. So stuff like that where you paint in the pictures in those mind movies, I have these phrases and metaphors and analogies, and I've become known for that, So that works on any social media platform. All of this shit works on any social media platform. And then the last one, certainly not least, I write 3 to 5 long-form threads each and every week. A long-form thread is like a mini blog post. It's like a series of threads that are tied together. And I share my expertise. I share how I did something, a lesson learned, a mistake made, whatever. Right now, lately, actually, I'm taking my daily email and I turn it into a long-form thread. So I write my email in the morning, and then I schedule it for 4:15 every day, and then I take that email and I rewrite it into a long-form thread. It's pretty much the same. It's probably 90% the same, but it's formatted different because it's on threads. And then I schedule that to go out like an hour after my email. So the people on my email list get it first. By the way, if you want to sign up for my email list, click the first link in the description down below. But I do email daily, so if that scares the shit out of you, don't sign up to my email list because you're not going to like it. So I repurpose. I do a very, very good job of repurposing content, repurposing ideas onto different platforms in that. But 3 to 5 long forms, that shows your competence, that shows your area of expertise, that shows you who you are. You can share your story. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but it shares your expertise on things that you've done, some case studies and things like that. That's what gets you buyers. That's like middle of funnel content. Threads like the 1-sentence statements, those are like top of funnel. Those are to get viral. And to get followers. But the long form are to nurture your audience, to nurture them to get to buy. Sometimes I pitch an offer at the end of the long forms. Most times I just pitch my email list. Most pitches I do on threads, it's my email list, is to get on my email list, because that's where the action happens. I want people on my email list. So anyways, those are the 7 laws of threads. Let's call it the 7 laws of threads that I have done over the last year plus. I still do all of those every single day. I think all of them every single day. And I've pretty much done them since day one. But if you apply those 7 things, like, you will have a killer brand on threads. And if you want to grab Threads Unleashed, I will link it right down below. It's $17. I've sold it 1,500 times. It had a resale license to it last summer, so it's been read by about 10,000. Has 232 comments. 232 customer submitted testimonials. It's a pretty hot guide, and a lot of people credit that for getting their start on threads. A lot of people credit that guide for earning their first money online. And then there's a lot of people who's taken that guide and then created their own Threads course. And I get DMs from people all the time saying, hey, I bought Threads XYZ course. It looks awfully like Threads Unleashed. So often imitated, never duplicated. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. If I earn a living selling little PDFs on the internet, if you have comments, questions, concerns, drop them down below. I'll do my absolute best to answer them. Also, hit that subscribe button. I do these videos every single day, Monday through Friday, where I walk around my neighborhood here in Las Vegas, and I just share a topic, an idea, a thought, a perspective, an opinion, a win, a loss, a mistake made, a lesson learned, whatever it is, on something to help you start and or continue with your online business. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.